Hi folks, welcome back to the stream. A few minutes late today. Sorry about that. Let me make sure I have everything I need set up here, including something to keep an eye on chat, because pretty often I get good ideas from folks in the chat. Don't want to miss them just because I'm on a device that has notifications turned off. So let me have one here where they're turned on. Very well. So you may be wondering, since I haven't explained and it looks a little bit incongruous, why is it the case that my stream says we're working on ikiwiki today, but my screen says not QMAP? Really glad you asked. We're working on ikiwiki, but we're working on something that will benefit not QMAP. So in the past several streams, we were working on GitHub authentication for ikiwiki. Today, I'm going to work on something else that probably will also be an ikiwiki extension. For right now, what I'm doing is standing up a new ikiwiki site. And I'm just about done with all the things I want to do on the server end. And then I will want to stand up a local instance of the site so I can stage changes locally on my laptop before I push. So let me show you what I did real quickly. And what I did is that not Qmail again is an open source email server. This is the GitHub organization about it. And then we have a few repos. This is the newest one. This is what I'm working on. Until today, notqmail.org redirected everything except for let's encrypt validation messages. Everything else, it redirected to the GitHub wiki for the notqmail project, because that's where we had been documenting things. It's convenient, it's there. We're doing everything else on GitHub. And as of today, if you go to the wiki, which is still there, all the pages that were still there are still there, but all they do, such as the release notes for notqmail 1.07, all they do is leave a place for you to click to go to where that page is now. Ideally, there would be some kind of automated redirect for each of those old URLs, because many of them have been sent around and are public. And ideally, they could be automatic HTTP redirects. That would be sweet. Even more ideally would be if we could have HTTP redirects with the wiki being turned off. But I don't think either one of those things works. So so what I did manually, just to recap it, every GitHub wiki is also a Git repo. You may not know, but you can get a Git checkout of a GitHub wiki. Here's an example of one. In the notqmail wiki, I cloned it from nearly the same place that I'd cloned notqmail itself, just with a .wiki in between notqmail and .git. So that, as far as I know, is true for every GitHub wiki that anybody has ever had. It's also the case, I was reading as I was investigating, can I just turn off the wiki and still, still have some kind of page there? I don't really know. It was saying you can turn off a wiki, but they will keep the Git repo. And then you can turn it on later and then the history will still be there. So I was inspired by the idea of keeping the history. There's no reason we needed to lose that just to move to self-hosted. So I cloned this repo onto my virtual private server. where I have a NotQmail user for NotQmail specific stuff. Yeah, by the way, a really good way to privilege separate things. You don't need a virtual machine, you don't need a Docker container. You can make a separate user account and do things as that user. That is privilege separation enough, and it's built into Unix. So anyway, NotQmail user, NotQmail website, www. I then grabbed a copy of the repo as a bare repo, which is right here. So if you're not familiar with it, Git has repositories, like every Git clone is a Git repo, but most of the ones that we work with on a daily basis have a concept of a checked out branch. And that's because usually we're using Git to do work locally in the file system and then have it saved. But often, maybe usually, maybe nearly always, use the crackling, it's the case that the Git repo that you push to doesn't have like a current working directory and a current tree and a current, maybe it has a current branch, but not, it doesn't have the file system represented. It just has the database that stores all the versions of the file system. And that's called a bare, B-A-R-E, like unadorned repository. So I cloned the GitHub repo for the wiki as a bare repo because I was going to use it as the place that gets pushed to by the ikiwiki instance that I'm standing up. So this is that bare repo. So you can do a git log here, even though you don't see the files. You can still do a git log. And it shows the history going back to July 2019 when we started the project. So all the history of the different edits, I don't think I have TIG on my server, is here. And then from here, I went and followed my usual ikiwiki pattern, which is, and I'm done with this. I finished debugging whatever that was. I have a conf directory that contains a Lighty config, the web server, and an ikiwiki config. I have a Git directory that contains the Git repo or occasionally repos. Oh, one more thing I want to do. Write it down. ikiwiki setup on a branch. Okay, I'll come back to that. Still going through this file system, I have an HTML directory, which is where the rendered static pages from ikiwiki that get served up go. Let's Encrypt, of course, is where I handle my SSL certificate vending. Logs are logs from the web server. Service is something for daemon tools, and one day for S6 when I make the switch. And then source is the substantially similar to what we had before on GitHub Wiki, a bunch of markdown files. For now. And we have the option, which we did not have when it was a GitHub Wiki, to have a file structure here other than everything at the top level. As far as I know, GitHub Wiki's files have to be at the top. With ikiwiki, you can have any file hierarchy you want because it's generating a complete website. It says wiki in the name of the software, but it is a content management system, and you can organize things however you want. I also said these are all markdown files for now, not because I want to change these files to something else, but because we're going to want to import something into the site now that we administer it how we want with our own content management system that is not a markdown file. Specifically, it is the source to Life with Qmail, which I have mentioned in previous streams. Dave Sill, on the basis of this documentation, wrote the book that everybody uses, even in this day and age, the Qmail Book of Record. There are other books, and they're also good, but his is by far the thickest and the most comprehensive. And this is the documentation that was the most meaningful and authoritative to the Qmail community when there was a busy, active community. And when we were starting up the project in 2019, I tried to get in touch with some of the QMail old timers, including Dave, and Dave very generously offered that I can. He wasn't able to give me access to just update it in place here because someone else is hosting it and they weren't willing to do that. But he said, here, take the full revision control history and source to the documentation and do as you wish. And what I wish is to gradually over time, so just as in not QMail, where we're gradually making patches unnecessary that people have had to carry around for years, this document is extremely complete about many different ways to do things from before the time that QMail was easily packaged and installed from packages. And we have changed that already. And over time, we're going to make more and more default choices that are fine for everyone. And then I want to not document those things anymore. Documentation is expensive. You have to maintain it. And for people, you have to either fail to read it and make mistakes or succeed at reading it in order to know what is a good idea to do or to make a decision to deviate from it knowingly. So this is a very valuable document. It tells us a lot about what are good choices for not QMail to integrate. And as we do that, we want to reduce the need for documentation. There'll never be zero need, but it could be someday, years from now, much shorter. And we'll get there a little bit at a time. In the meantime, we want to start maintaining this document. And that's one of the reasons that we have our own ikiwiki site. The thing that we don't have yet, and that's what I'm going to hope to get to program a little bit on today by the end, is a way to process that input format to produce HTML. That's what an ikiwiki input format has to do. It has to take whatever the input format is from one file and generate corresponding HTML in one file. So that's the job. And this is the reason why we want to do that job. And that is why I'm in the process of getting all this moved over from a GitHub wiki to, for now, what will be functionally nearly equivalent, but is actually just our entire website. So we're free to do things how we want. So this is where notqmail.org goes today. There were a couple URLs that used to redirect specially, just as a shorthand, like this one for the release notes of our first release. And that used to take you to a specific GitHub page. Now it takes you to the specific page right here. If you have noticed, the style of the original QMail authors page, I'm pretty sure his is hand-coded HTML, but this is a very similar style. This is, HTML with no styling as of 1998. And the default ikiwiki site looks pretty similar, and I'm pretty happy with that. I don't need any more than that. We can always change it. ikiwiki sites can look like whatever you want them to. So, like for example, wiki.netbsd.org is an ikiwiki instance. Oops. There's a full screen. And it has been styled and templated to look as near as possible to the main NetBSD website. So just a quick switch between them. And you can see the wiki has this wiki bar at the top, and the main site does not. The left-hand side is nearly the same. It looks like we're missing the search bar in the right place. Oh no, the wiki has search. And the main website, maybe you have to do something to find it. Let's see if I can get that hamburger menu. No, it just goes in and out. What about this one? Does this one go in and out? Somebody has done very good work here. Okay, so the point is you can style an ikiwiki site to look like anything, as you would expect with a content management system. Just don't get confused that it's called something something wiki, and that's all it is. It's a generic, mostly static, but also dynamic features content management system. As I said, all these pages are now mere references with links that you have to click with your own body to go to where the site is now, and the site is now here. What am I in the middle of doing? I have the site running. I have the effective redirects going where they need to go. I've adjusted the file names to be lowercase because I would like our permalink URLs to be lowercase instead of like a capital T trust. Lowercase t is nice. And we can always, ikiwiki has a mechanism. In fact, maybe I'll just do it now because I want to test something. I'll do it soon to test something. Local instance. I'm writing down on my little whiteboard off screen. And then commit. So one thing that I'm pretty sure is set up that I will want to double check when I do a commit from my machine later is that whenever first of all, ikiwiki handles this. Whenever you push to the bare repository, the site is regenerated. And that's done incrementally. So things that are not needing to be rebuilt won't get rebuilt. Another thing that happens if you configure it, and I have, is that you can run a command of your own devising, for example, to mirror the Git repo onto GitHub. And that is how it's there. And what I want to make sure of by the time we're done today is that whenever I do a push, say from my laptop to the live site, which is on a virtual private server, that I can see my commit show up here in the history. So that'll be a good check of whether everything is really wired up. And then we will go from there. So the next step that I want to figure out is, I guess I want to put the ikiwiki setup on a branch before I go any further. What do I mean by that? Typically what I have done for other sites of mine, so for example, Agile in 3 Minutes is a podcast built with ikiwiki using the podcasting support that I enhanced about a decade ago. And it's built with ikiwiki, and just a moment, please. Yeah, so the way that I store the documents for the site, that's in ikiwiki, as you can see here. But also, I store the configuration for the site in Git. Looks like I have a local change. What is it? Oh yeah, right. Figured this out in the process of setting up the NotQmail site. ikiwiki push using the remote's name. So what I had here was whenever anybody pushes to Agile in 3 Minutes, anybody being me, then it should also push up to the GitHub repo. And I was doing that with an explicit repo specified. But now I have the GitHub remote defined on the bare repository for this site. So it should work to just git push and the name that I set it up as. So let's take that change. And I'm on the setup branch here. And this is the thing I want to do the same for NotQmail. So that effectively, both the site data and the site config are in the same repo. You just check out a different branch depending on which thing you're trying to do. I would never have thought to do this myself, but it's the way that hosted repositories, hosted sites at Branchable, an ikiwiki hosting company, did it. And I thought, a little bit strange because they're not things that are really related to each other semantically, but they're related to each other that they're for the same thing. And so why not just make a branch and don't worry about keeping them in sync? You don't have to merge them. It doesn't make sense to merge them, but you're also not obligated to do that. So, so I have a setup branch that is these two files, the ikiwiki config and the web server config. And I have a main branch that is all the episodes and all the templates and all the MP3s of the sound files that go to the podcast. So I want the same thing for not QMail. And right now, I don't think the ikiwiki or the lighty config are in Git at all, because I only just introduced the Git repo earlier today. So if I go into conf, do a git status, it's going to say isn't one. What's the easiest way? I think I will git clone home not qmail sites, not qmail.org, www, get this to, let's call it setup.git. Setup, not .git. And then let's go into setup and create a branch called setup. Have that shortcut here. And just on this branch. Oh yeah, okay. That's good. Oh, email. And then name. Create setup branch. So there's just nothing here. And then I will copy in the ikiwiki and the lighty into here. Add lighty. And then I can push this back. Uh-huh, okay. That's true. What does that say? Sure. But maybe it's a one-time thing. While I'm here, now we can remove these naked copies of the config. Move setup up a level under conf and rename setup to conf. And so now I have a conf with the same two files I had before, but now when I do a git status, I'm on the setup branch. I am not sure if I expect that to have made it here. Let's see. Not yet. Might have to explicitly push that somehow. Git push all branches. Here, I'll get push dash dash all. Okay, I think I want that. So that there, and I would want it here. Gut push. Oopsie. Did not specify a branch. Still seeing that. Because this is not the default configured remote for your current branch, you must specify a branch on the command line. And let me think about why that's happening. Just a moment. Ikiwiki, mirror all branches to GitHub. Will that have worked? There might not have been anything to push new on the setup branch. Yeah, not sure about that. But we'll get a good test of it over here. What you building? I am standing up. Mr. Elfman says, what you building? I am standing up a website independent of the GitHub wiki for the NotQmail project. So you can see that here. Until this morning, this was on the GitHub wiki for the NotQmail project, and I wanted it to be self-hosted for a variety of reasons, but mainly because I'm going to have something that's not Markdown, that's really important historical documentation that I want to host on the site also. And we have other reasons, but that's one of the pressing reasons. So right now I'm making sure that I have wired up the hosted site correctly. The next thing I'm going to do, because I always use ikiwiki for these, the next thing I'm going to do is make a local instance of the site and make sure that when I git push to production, first of all, that it changes the production site on the fly as it should. And secondly, that the site is then, the Git repo is then mirrored onto GitHub, because I want to make sure that the other contributors to the project can at least always easily fetch a copy of the repo from GitHub or anybody else. So I'm getting an error message that I don't recognize and I have to think about it, which is always unpleasant. That when I ran ikiwiki to generate the site manually by hand using the config file, it said that I asked to pull from origin, but I didn't say which branch. So that makes me think I should try this command right here and see if that's where it's coming from. That's fine. And if I go into source, that's where it's coming from. So I didn't specify a branch. Huh. Okay, somehow that wasn't necessarily what was happening before. Okay, I don't know why my main was tracking not the origins main, but the GitHub main, but we're done with that now, I hope. So now, when I say generate me an ikiwiki site, I shouldn't get any funny error messages. That's always nice. And again, this is a Git repo we have modified. ikiwiki, push all branches to GitHub. I think maybe I expect it to wind up as one of the branches here now. Yeah, it is. Cool. Progress. Okay, so now we have the main branch, which is the data of the website, all these markdown files. And we have a setup branch, which is, oh, there's a git ignore. Probably should have removed that too. Let's do that. As you look at that, our commits go to the site itself on the VPS, and then that gets pushed up to ikiwiki. So this mirror is live. That feels good. So both the configuration and the data for the website are mirrored to GitHub. That also feels good. What is next? Yep, I did ikiwiki setup going on a branch. We have a setup branch. It's all in there. Erasing my little whiteboard entry, squeaky, squeaky. Maybe you could hear that. What is next is I have three choices. I need to make a local instance. I think that's the one that I want to sort of force to do the rest in the order that makes sense. Right now, the only way that I can be messing around with a production website is to SSH into the virtual private server, change user to the not QMail user, CD into the ikiwiki source checkout, which you're not supposed to mess with. That's supposed to be ikiwikis to mess with in case you have web editing turned on, for instance, which we don't yet, but still. The right way to do this is to make a staging instance, which I like to do anyway. And I think that's the next step, is to think through what's involved in making that work. So let me switch over to where I have done that other times, which is sites. So I showed you Agile in 3 minutes earlier. There is a local instance of it here. And I want to follow the same pattern. I think I want a site called notqmail.local. It's probably what the thing is. So let's see what this one looks like. It has a similar structure. It has CGI. We don't have that yet because we don't have any web-based editing turned on. It has conf, which is where those ikiwiki and lighty config files will go. It has HTML, which is where the generated content will go. It has logs, it has service, and it has source, which is the website source. One thing that it has that we don't, it has a let's encrypt and we have an mkcert. What does mkcert say to do? It's just a result. Okay. So one thing that might be on the docket is to figure out how to make a local SSL certificate for the site. We shall see. The big thing, though, is to start with, for Agile in 3 minutes, I have a directory in trees, which is where I usually check out source trees, so I make it the same. And then it's got a source and a conf and an HTML. So I want, yeah, .qmail. Do I already have it? What's in there? This must be from a previous go round. I don't remember doing this. What's in here? What is all this? This looks like a copy of, zoom up on this here. This looks kind of like something else. This reminds me of a different site, qmail.org, that this would be some kind of a mirror of, but it's not a complete looking mirror at all. Okay, so that's a to-do item. What was, let me move this aside. I'm going to think about it later. What's in here? Cool. Okay. So this is that historical documentation that I want to integrate into our new self-hosted site. And the source file for it is this one. So the format is called SDF. So maybe by the end of today's stream, we will be making sure that we have a working SDF installation on our system. And then next time we could see about integrating it with ikiwiki. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get that far. So this notqmail.org is some kind of a red herring. I don't know what to make of it, but I'm going to rename it to notqmail.org. What is this even? Yeah, and then when I'm doing tab completion, I'll get what I want, but I'll also have to think about this sometime. That's what I need. All right. What I wanted to do, actually, what's left here? Yeah, this doesn't look, this does look right. This is the GitHub wiki as it stands now, where each file is merely a link. Okay, and then I have one file, which is the release notes that I'm working on for later. I'm going to want to put that in the new place soon, and then get rid of notqmail.wiki. But first, and this is the source code itself. So now what I want to be able to do, I have an analog for this from a different project. I think this is the one. Yeah. So most of my websites are my websites, and I host them under my user account, Schmons, on my virtual private server. Shape My Work, which is a wiki that I tried making before the world went remote, and then tried to make it take off when the world did go remote. Didn't really happen, but it does some things Git-wise that I want to duplicate for this site, because I wanted anybody to be able to get push to it as well as web edit it, and we're in the same boat. So I want to see how I figured out to make a Git that I can take people's SSH keys, put them in a place, and not allow full shell access with those SSH keys, and allow people to pull and push if they have SSH access. So let's see how Shape My Wiki did it. Before I do that, what's the difference between them? I better see which one is the live one before I go generalizing from it. So I think I have that in this tab. Okay, yeah, shapemywork.git is the living one. Yeah, shape my wiki wouldn't even be in the right place to get pushed to anymore. Okay, so shapemywork.git is the one to look for. So this is the right repo to be borrowing from. I assume push would work if I had something. How did I do it for this site? I cloned from user shape my work at shapemywork.com. So I kind of want something parallel to that. Home, not qmail sites, not qmail.org, www, get not qmail, or yeah, I think just source.git would be fine. That's where it is now. How did I make that work? So shape my work has this home directory and this shell. Git shell. What does that mean? It's a login shell for SSH accounts to provide restricted Git access. Permits execution only of server-side Git commands, implementing pull push plus custom commands named git shell commands in the user's home directory. So these things related to pull and push. CVS server. I have enough real ones of those in my life. I don't want to be imitating one for this. If this is present, then git shell can be run interactively. And it would show you what commands you could run. That's interesting. Probably don't need that. So what do I have for not qmail? It has a bash, because I'm pretty often SUing to it and doing stuff like I am today. But that's okay. I don't have to have a full shell in Etsy password to be able to get a shell as that user. So I guess first things first, I want to use the same restricted shell for the not qmail user. Oh, right. No. Not for shape my work. Would be good to have that in the prompt, wouldn't it? Git shell is in there. Okay. And then is there any interesting information about the user? No. So I don't need to do that either. I'm just trying to follow the pattern that I did before. It's always nice to do that. So now when I do the grep that I had been doing here, they should look more similar. Yeah. Next. Next. Where did the SSH keys go in this scenario? Am I just, I mean, what I would naively expect is that somebody sends me an SSH key and I had been adding it to authorized keys. It does look like that. Okay. So yeah, if the shell is a restricted Git shell, then the Unix user's SSH authorized keys give it only Git access. Okay, this seems plausible. So then, for example, I think now that won't give me a shell, right? So I need to do this. That should help. And then, is there? Yeah. Okay, so far we don't have any authorized keys. This SSH key I just generated today and then gave it to the new GitHub repo as a deploy key. That's how the git push can work to automatically mirror. So I guess what I'm saying is I want my SSH public key and I want to put it in authorized keys. Let's do that. What's an easy way? I think I have it here. There we go. Public keys ssh.text. That'll be the easiest way. Take that, paste here, and then now I can probably clone from a URL that looks like the Shape My Work one. So let's take this and pop over down a level, paste, and just adjust to taste. Not qmail at notqmail.org. Not qmail. Sites, notqmail.org. I'm debating. So what I did with Shape My Work, usually for my sites, I always call it source.git. But then I always know to clone with the name that I want it to have. I think I want to follow this pattern again, which means I need to rename the repo on the server side. Not qmail.org. .git, right? So let's make that true right now. Let's see if I can authenticate and fail to get that. Yeah, there's no repo there, but I could check that there was a repo there. So the SSH part of things is happy. The next thing I want to do is move the repo in place. So, gotta find all the places that are calling it source.git. Call it not move source.git to not qmail.org.git. And that way people won't have to have an additional argument to the clone. They'll just have one really long one, but that's it. And they'll get a checkout that's called notqmail.org. That's worth it to me for a little setup cost. So let's go over here, get remote set URL origin. Notqmail.org.git. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then we also have the git remote here. Okay, and then in the config file itself, this is where we want the get post commit hook to be made. Ikiwiki. Rename their repo to .git. Is that it? Is it going to get pushed up? Okay, so have not broken the existing setup as far as I can tell. Should also work to come over here and do that. Okay, I think I'm done borrowing from my other sites. Let us, so that's it for being able to clone using SSH. So let's go back over here, and this time it should succeed. Now I have a notqmail.org. Do you notice that tab completion? Yeah, so I don't have to make a note to figure out, like, what is that? I'll notice when I'm tab completing a repo that I'm actively working on. Okay, here we are with our clone. Now, if I want to make it really parallel to the structure that I do for my other sites, I actually want to go the other direction and move notqmail.org to notqmail.org source. So I have a little bit of trouble when I do the setup because I have a particular folder structure, but I think most people will want to just get a repo locally called notqmail.org. So again, that's fine for me. I want to have a folder called notqmail.org in which that is called source. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix that dead repo. So here we are with this thing, pull, push, and then we need the config file, config files. So I want to do a similar clone into conf. And then there's setup. Okay. And then the next thing that I do in my usual pattern here is we get onto a laptop branch, which is off of the setup branch, and change whatever settings we need locally. And I guess for that, I do want to look again at the ikiwiki settings, but also the Lighty settings, actually. Yeah, what am I going to need to do here? I'm going to call it notqmail.local. Need to figure out numbers for that. This is the same. Yeah. Yeah. So in the Agile in 3 minutes production site, there's HTTP authentication. I comment that out on my local site. Should probably commit that to the branch, but not thinking about that right now. Yeah, so I don't have anything equivalent on the production side for notqmail.org that I need to mirror in this scenario. I just need to get some good numbers here. So let's figure out where those come from. Mm, so I run a local um, reverse proxy of sorts. It does not terminate the connection. It just um, looks inside either the HTTP host header for plain text connections or the server name indication field of the SSL connection, TLS connection. and then dispatches accordingly. So I definitely have to get added to a table here for this to work. You can see I did this recently in the stream. So where did I get this number from? I guess I'm just gonna assume that I can increment one of those numbers. The list is short enough that if it's unique to this file, I'll be able to see that. And that probably is enough to be sure that it's unique on my system. So this one's going to be called not qmail.local. And I'll take 36363. Does not occur anywhere else. That's for plain text. And actually that's enough to start with. Take a note here. Local HTTPS for notqmail.org. And also for, I don't know if I really need to, for GitHub auth.local. That's only going to live as long as it needs to for me to develop this plugin. So, but the notqmail site I'm going to be running with for a while. So I will want to make it do the HTTPS stuff the same way. The way I've done that before, and it's been quite a long time, is I used a program called mkcert, as I recall, but I don't recall how. So I'm going to not do that today. What is going on, computer? Somebody got stuck. So I guess the answer is I don't have this. Maybe I should define it not. Why is that so stuck? It's tedious. Oh, and then I should make this port number match. 36363, I think it was. Will tell me. What is going on, yo? I readily admit I'm running OBS. It shouldn't suddenly be worse like that. The spider oak is cranking. Network backup. Not right now. Still. Okay, it got rid of its main process. Hopefully the other one will go soon. I'm just guessing anyway. This is plenty unpleasant. I think what I'll do then is try this kind of a kill. Okay, demux close window. Control A, ampersand. Yeah. All right, let's try that again. We were doing two things. We were in knockymail.org conf, looking at the Lighty config, and we were in sniproxy.conf. Where my change didn't take. Okay. 36363, we said. Seems free. Okay. Then I need to restart SNI proxy. Is this how it's running? Yes. So this is now how it's running. Okay. Next order of business is this has to start. But first we have to also check the ikiwiki config. So this could be instructive. To compare the laptop branch against the setup branch and do something similar. Right, this is going to be users, schmons. Oh, it's still sites. Not qmail.local. This is going to get symlinked from where I have it now. Source. And then the dester is going to be real similar, but HTML. Okay. And then the URL becomes, at least for now, like that. Don't have a CGI, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. Mirror list, right? That's a good one to do whenever you have a local mirror. Right, and because of the symlinks that I'm going to use to do this, should probably do that in the setup branch. I will. Yeah, hold up. I just noticed something that we should fix in the setup branch first and then merge that out, which is to do with an artifact of my package build scheme. So on my production server, which is here, uh, my packages, which are many, I build them on my own roughly once a week and install them here. And in order to give myself a rollback scenario that is on the order of seconds, um, I build each set of packages into sort of a logical and a physical. The logical path for them is always, um, as you've seen, opt package bin, opt package sbin, but that's because opt package is a symlink. And I have it point to usually the latest set, but every now and then not the latest when they prove not to work that well for some reason. It's been a while, but I like to know that I have that move. And that enables me to stay current with package source and afford to encounter problems early and help fix them or at least report them. So that's why I do it this way. Um, as a side effect, sometimes programs put their paths into things, and I have to tell them, no, 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 put not the physical path, but the logical path. So that, a month from now, when I've rolled over updates 3 times and the oldest have rolled out, these paths will still work for templates and the like. Ikiwiki, use logical package source path, not physical. Good. And now when I pop back over here, should just roll back those changes in my editor and rebase is the easiest way. What else? Cookie. I just don't need it. Comment it out. Get wrapper will be in a different place. Users, schmons, sites, not qmail.local. Right, source. And then this won't be a bare repo. This will be a regular repo with a working tree. And it won't be a post update hook. It'll be a post commit hook. That is when content should get regenerated locally. So I'll do a commit locally and reload the web page and see if it's what I want when I want to go to the trouble. And if it is, then I'll do a git push and the production website will do the same. But locally, that's a post commit. Locally, I also won't be doing this. Git, right, and I do not automatically want to be pulling and pushing changes. That's something that a live site would do. I'm not a live site. And then my mirror list. The live site is there. That will help me disambiguate between the title having the word laptop in it, and at the bottom there will be a link to production. That'll help me know when I'm working locally by mistake or not. Any other changes? That was it. Okay. So now I feel like I should be able to, let's double check it. Tester, yeah. Should be able to generate a what? Oh, yeah, I don't have that yet, do I? Let's do it with a physical path first. Is that right? Yeah, sure could be. Okay. So do it that way for now. No, I won't. Who's doing this? What if I don't do a get wrapper? Still no good. Who's doing this? Oh, yeah. You know what? I should just make these symlinks now. That's what it's telling me. Okay, so then let's go back to get wrapper, put it the way that I wanted to put it, and then pop on over to sites, not qmail.local, and put the things that I want in here. What is this source? It's empty. It's not empty enough. What's in there? Okay. but I want it to be documents trees notqmail.org source, and likewise for conf, and likewise for HTML, and then make dir logs. I will need to make dir service, but not yet. Right now I'm just trying to generate the site. I thought I did. Oh, I uncommented it, but didn't set it to 1. Yep. Okay. It wants to make it. This is a little tricky to bootstrap. Maybe I need to make the HTML directory here. Maybe it's done. Yeah. Okay, so now the site is in a place. The reverse proxy will hand it off to the Lighty. Let's run the Lighty. And then we should be able to go to notqmail.local. Provided we also add it to Etsy hosts. Okay. Yeah, that's us. So now we need to set up the service. And this is also just a symlink when it's ready. So let's set up the service in sites, notqmail.local, make dir service. And copy something over from, what do we have? We have a run. Copy run into notqmail.local service and twiddle it. User from sites, notqmail.local. Does that work? No, we have to define that. Can't be not defined. But if we don't do the include, then we don't have to do the define. Okay. That should help. Okay. Warm. Styling looks a little weird, but site is up. So now we have to hook this into the service manager. And that, as we said, is as simple as going into services. And call that not. And shortly, yeah, it should be up. And it is. Okay. Progress. Why don't I have a recent changes? And why does this look slightly different? Like some things are not right. Oh, I remember. Our setup branch. So we had our local edits. And then I can do a git fetch, git rebase setup, and then rerun the setup. It still wasn't it. Oh, because I still need more local changes. And that is, instead of, what was the template there? How did we not, did I not commit and push this change? I did. Ah, I need to rebase on origin setup. Okay. That'll do it. Better. Yeah. So now we have our right heading size, we have our horizontal rule, and here's the production side. Forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. And then at the bottom of the page, back, whoops, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. So the local one has this. Right, I have a local instance, the thing that I want to test, and then I think I'm ready to tell my fellow NoQmail committers that they should send me their SSH keys, is that I want to make an edit on my local instance, preview it locally, push it, see the change get mirrored to GitHub, and then everything's wired up. Let's do that. So what I would naively like to do is go into source, which looks like so, and I have no changes in progress. Here's something I want to do. There's a link to a page also on our site. Now I like that this is a lowercase permalink URL instead of having capital letters in it. But I might also like for the title of the page to be this. And ikiwiki has a way to do that. So let's just make a test edit. What I want to say is meta title equals this. Trust. Use meta title. And that should have rebuilt the page, and it did. So that's good. And again, production will not have been rebuilt. Let's pull that over here. That still has it as a level heading here and this here. So now if I do a, oh yeah, and also I want to look here. Presumably there's no new commit, but let's just get our list of commits. That's the setup branch. Let's get on the main branch. Okay. Now I'm going to do a git push. I'm going to reload this page and see that the change takes in production. I'm going to reload this page and see that we have the latest commit mirrored to GitHub. And let's see that go. Okay. This is updated. This is updated. Our work for today is done. What we have now, to recap, is a website that is no longer redirecting to GitHub Wiki, but is self-hosted. The GitHub Wiki, FYI, has all the old pages still there, but emptied out and left with references to these pages. There's no automatic redirect that I can find out how to do. If you know of such a thing, please tell me. I would love to hide the old wiki and make it not available anymore and have redirects for all the URLs people might have. But that's what we have for now. A website that we control, the content is moved. There's probably some things I need to do about formatting because the markdown on GitHub pages is a little bit different from markdown in ikiwiki. So we'll see if there's any of that. And there is an automatic mirror of the website's repository into the NotQmail organization. There's a repo here called notqmail.org now that has the whole history going back to the GitHub wiki, but now goes in a different direction where we're doing ikiwiki things. And what this will enable me to do is to adapt an important piece of historical and still relevant QMail documentation with an unusual input format to be part of our website now that we control it. And we're entirely ready to start working on that next time. So with that, I will say thanks for watching the stream. We stood up an ikiwiki website and everything is happy. Git, ikiwiki, push, markdown. It's nice. It's a good way to be. So thanks for watching, and I will see you our next regularly scheduled session on Monday.